Hey guys, welcome back to Inside the 20. We're on video now, so that's pretty cool. It's going to be going up on our YouTube channel. We're also going to have audio on Spotify, Apple Music, or Apple Podcasts, and everywhere else that you get your podcasts. So a little bit of a different approach to Inside the 20. We're going to see if you guys like it, and let's go ahead and get started. So let's start with football. As you guys know, we're branching out into other sports as well. So we're going to start with football. We're going to start with the Julio Jones trade. So why does Julio Jones work in Tennessee, and does he work in Tennessee? So first of all, let me just say that I was very surprised that Julio was traded to Tennessee and not to New England. I figured that, there would be some sort of a Stephon Gilmore for Julio Jones trade and some, maybe a late round pick swap, but he went to Tennessee, and so I guess that's where he wanted to be, and he got his wish. So he wants to play with AJ Brown, but how is that going to work? Is there going to be, split carry, or not carries, but split, receptions and whatnot, coming from that? Like, who's going to get more targets, and who's going to be focused more on the receiving end of the offense, do you think?
Well, the problem is that A.J. Brown had over 1,000 yards, and Corey Davis was also 20 yards away from having 1,000 yards.
Corey Davis, yeah.
So I think it takes away from both of them, and I do think...
Well, Corey Davis is now on the Jets. He's not a factor anymore.
But, with that being said, we've shown that Corey Davis can get touches with A.J. Brown being on the offense. So
right.
I do think they'll split receptions, because they did actually split receptions.
They did.
Corey Davis had 65 and A.J. Brown had 70. So
they did. So I think they can... Yeah, I'm thinking they can do a good job of doing so, but I think that for fantasy value, I would not take Julio Jones or A.J. Brown, just because I think that their targets are going to get split, and so that makes their fantasy value drop. Unless you take them for, your flex spot or whatever whatever you might be taking them for. I just wouldn't take them as a wide receiver 1 or 2 option, or even maybe 3 on your backup. Yeah. I would take them as a flex option. And I think that the Titans are very creative with their offense, so they may even run like some, jet sweeps with Julio. But I do think that he works in Tennessee. My only problem is that the Titans focus their offseason on the offense rather than the defense. Yeah. Their defense needs help. I mean, they had an exit of 3 corners. Desmond King, Adoree Jackson is on the Giants. Desmond King is on the Texans. And there's one more that I still can't seem to think of. But they had, 3 big name. Malcolm Butler, he's on the Cardinals now. They had an exit of 3 main corners that they rotated through. And yes, they drafted Caleb Farley, but he is injury prone, and we don't know if he's going to be healthy enough to be a consistent corner in the league. He has the talent, but we don't know if he's going to be consistent enough.
Yeah.
So their pass rush got a little better with Bud Dupree, but he was very expensive. So I don't know how much. I don't even know if they're going to win the division. I think Indianapolis will win the division. I don't know what you think. What do you think?
I do think Indianapolis will win the division, because they got somewhat of a better quarterback. I wouldn't say a lot better, but I think if Carson Wentz can play at a mediocre level, they can win the division.
Yeah, and they have consistent defense and a consistent offense, and they have a great offensive line. So the Titans have a mediocre offensive line. Sure, they have a good what's it called? They have good skills players, but they don't really have a good offensive line or defense, which the Colts do.
You know what I think? I think Derrick Henry is going to go down in value next season, just because he'll go from maybe 2,000 yards to 1,500.
Just because they're going to be maybe more of a pass-centric offense.
Yeah.
And they have a new offensive coordinator. You got to think about that, too. Mm-hmm. So I definitely think that the Colts will win the division by at least 2 games, a win or 2 to the Titans. So it'll be interesting to see how the AFC South plays out next year. Obviously, we know that the Jaguars and the Texans are probably not really a factor in this, especially the Texans. But I think that the Titans and Colts, it's going to be an interesting race to watch. Yeah. So now we move on to basketball. This is our first podcast integrating basketball as a whole. So I'm going to start with my favorite team, the Dallas Mavericks. I love the Dallas Mavericks. I love Luka Doncic. He's my favorite player. But I would like to say that I'm still very disappointed in their loss to the Clippers. It was a very winnable series, especially since we started off 2-0. My theory is that Luka is surrounded with too many shooters. He's surrounded with 4 shooters on the starting offense, and he himself, most of the time is a shooter. So Yes, he's a finisher also, but he's mainly a shooter. So he's surrounded with 4 shooters when he needs to be surrounded with more like 2, maybe Tim Hardaway and Maxi Kleba, and then he needs to be surrounded with more lane filling talent, more post talent. So they need like someone like a Jared Allen or a Miles Turner, someone who's available, and someone who can be signed at a low price, just because Luke is going to be signing his first Supermax this season. And I think Kristaps Porzingis needs to go. I don't think that I like the dude, but I don't think that he really fits in the offense. I know it's not all his fault. I think Carlisle was using him wrong. Coach Carlisle was using him wrong for the most part. But I think that there needs to be someone who can lane fill and someone who can't. There's not an option of them taking threes, right? So I think that would be more of a plus for the offense. I also think that we need to add someone on the shooting guard who can be a 3-and-D type guy, like maybe C.J. McCollum, who can, shoot a 3 and then get back and play defense. So we need better defenders, and we just, in the end, we need everyone else to step up besides Luka. Luka stepped up and everyone else didn't. So ultimately, that's how I think the Mavericks should approach this offseason. Now, what about you and your team?
Mediocrity. I just think it was an embarrassing season, but we did pick up Vucevic and
Chicago Bulls.
Yeah, Chicago Bulls. Obviously, Chicago Bears fan. I just think it was an embarrassing season. With Vucevic and having a lottery pick, I think it can be better next year, but it's still
you could always get
embarrassing.
You could always get a top 5 lottery pick. It's possible, but I do think that the Bulls need to focus on consistency. Zach LaVine is kind of the one part of their offense that was consistent. A lot of injuries. Vukovic came in, but he didn't really, pose a factor. So, I think that there needs to be more consistency. Mm-hmm. I do. Maybe another superstar. Although Vukovic is a superstar, but he's getting old. So, add a younger superstar. I think they have the money for it. So, add another superstar. So now let's look at the playoff landscape. First off, let's start with the East. The more competitive, I guess the more competitive East. Not really much competition right now in general, but more of the competitive East. First off, I'd like to talk about the 76ers and Hawks. Now, I saw one of the worst takes I've ever seen the other day. The Hawks are not better than the Bucks. I hope that whoever said that is not listening. But the Hawks are not better than the Bucks whatsoever. Yes, they had one good game against the 76ers, but I felt it was more of a punch in the mouth, kind of coming out of nowhere. The 76ers actually almost came back if it wasn't for a magical lob by Trae Young to John Collins. So I don't think that the Hawks are second-round talent or even title contenders. I don't think that they are yet. They could be at some point, especially since Trae Young's not even in his prime yet. He's like 21 or 2 maybe. He's an unbelievable player, but he's just not in a place where he can be the superstar every night. I mean, he is the superstar every night, but I don't think that's enough to carry them to the Eastern Conference Finals or even the NBA Finals. So I do think that the 76ers will win this series in 5 or 6 games, and I don't think it'll be much of a competition. No. Would you like to talk about the Nets and Bucks? I have my own thing on the Nets and Bucks, but I'd like to pass it over to you first of all. So
hang on. Yeah, so I'm sure you're going to touch on this, but the game from Thursday, which was just atrocious from both teams.
It was a boring game, is what it was.
I ended up watching just the last quarter because I was busy during the first 3 quarters, and I come back and I see the score. It's like 70-something to like 70-something, and I'm like, what is happening? Like, you just look at that and you think professional basketball.
Right.
And that's just not something I would expect to see from a powerhouse team like the Nets.
Right. I thought of, like, 1970s playoff games, dude. Like, that. Like, when no one took a 3, when Kareem Abdul-Jabbar took 1 3 in his career. Like, that's what I thought of when I watched that game. I thought of, like, or when I saw the score. But if you actually watched the game, you would know that no one can make a basket except Giannis and Chris Middleton. So that leads me to my point. The Nets have a weakness. If they can't score, they can't win. right? Which, obviously that's the case with like every team, but some teams can play defense and that helps them get back into the game. The Nets can't play defense. So their problem is if they can't shoot from a high percentage, they can't win. If their superstars aren't performing at a high level, they can't win.
Yeah.
And so I think this series is, to an extent, kind of wide open on who's going to win it. Just because if the Nets keep continuing to play like this and Harden doesn't come back, I think that Milwaukee could pull it out somehow, which would be insane. I mean, that would be unbelievable. But, I mean, the Nets shot 36% from the field goal the other night, and 25% from the three-point line. I mean, that's just, like, unheard of from the Nets. I've never seen the Nets shoot that badly. But when they did, it left room for Milwaukee to come in and just obliterate them. So, yeah. I mean, and it wasn't just, they were shooting badly. Milwaukee was playing pretty good defense on them. I mean, Brook Lopez had like 6 or 7 block shots. I mean, it was just good defense from Milwaukee. Now they couldn't shoot on the other side too. But if they were able to, I think it would have been a blowout, like game 2.
Yeah, like the games
like
where
game
the
2,
Nets know
right?
how to shoot.
Right. Which brings me over to the West. The Suns. Suns and the Nuggets. The Suns are able to shoot the ball extremely well. They have no weaknesses other than Chris Paul being out. If Chris Paul is out, they don't play well. But that's something that's not controllable. Shooting is controllable. You can get open looks. You can take high efficient shots. There's things that you can do to be consistent. And so that's the Nets' weakness. They weren't getting open shots. They weren't shooting high efficient shots. They were shooting like a bunch of mid-range shots and three-pointers that were contested. It wasn't smart. The Suns, I mean, they can shoot from anywhere. And unless Chris Paul's out, I don't see a weakness in their team. And so they're up 3-0 on the Nuggets right now. I'm assuming that this will go to a 4 or 5 game series, but I mean, the Nuggets have Nikola Jokic, the MVP of the league, who put up a crazy stat line triple-double the other night. 30 points, 20 rebounds, 10 assists, and still lost because the Suns are just able to, they are able to pick apart the Nuggets.
They're an offensive power team.
They're a powerhouse, and they can play defense too. I don't see anyone stopping them.
Oh, yeah.
I don't. And you look at the Jazz too, they're unstoppable too, but I don't think they have enough firepower to beat the Suns. So right now I see the Suns as the best team in the league. But talking about the Jazz and the Clippers, the Clippers just, they are a good team, right? They are a great team, but they can't ever put the oomph in it and get to they have the talent. Obviously, they have Kawhi Leonard, a top 10, possibly top 5 player in the league. And Paul George, a top 20 player in the league. So, you look at it and you're like, how does this team not win? Because they're kind of like the Nets. They just don't shoot efficient shots. They play better defense than the Nets, but they don't get efficient shots. And Kawhi carries them. Simple as that. So the Jazz are kind of exploiting that right now. And I think that they'll win in a 4 or 5 game series also. So I think that the real test here is going to be Suns and Jazz. 76ers and Nets, Nets should handle them if they get that far. But I think the real test of strength here is going to be Suns versus Jazz, and I will be tuning in to every game of that series.
Yeah.
And Donovan Mitchell's playing amazing. Devin Booker's playing amazing. It's two superstars going against each other, and you have the vet. You have Mike Conley. Mike Conley's not even in right now. You have Mike Conley. You have Chris Paul. You have the vets. They look like similar teams, right? They look very similar, and so you're going to see two very similar teams going up against each other. Whereas the Nets and the 76ers are not very similar at all, honestly. The 76ers are kind of a defensive powerhouse, whereas the Nets are kind of an offensive powerhouse. So I think the interesting series will be the Suns and Jazz. And ultimately, I see the Suns pulling it out. That's my take.
I would say it's Suns in 5 or 6. I don't think it'll go to a game 7.
We'll see. I think the Jazz will eventually win a finals, but with this team they've got, but we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
So, I'm not really. I don't know a lot about baseball, so
Me neither.
I'll
I have a
kind of
baseball
just
shirt on, but
I'll kind of just go over a little bit of what's happening in the MLB, because I'm a White Sox fan, so I'm really only a baseball fan when the White Sox are doing good, and the past 2 seasons that's been happening. So I've been happy about that. And what other sports? Hockey.
we can talk about hockey playoffs.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the hockey
let's
playoffs.
do that.
I know some of you are hockey fans. I know you're out there. I like hockey. I like watching playoff hockey. It's fun. I don't really know all the rules, but it's fun to watch. So
Again, I'm only a hockey fan when the Blackhawks are good. So, yeah. The Islanders are playing Tampa Bay.
Tampa Bay. Ew. I'm a Stars fan, so ew, Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
I hope the Islanders win. Neither of the series have started yet, have they? These are the Stanley Cup semis, right?
Yeah, the semis.
Okay, so I can kind of go over the hockey landscape a little bit, I think. So overall, it's been pretty interesting so far. I think Toronto got upset pretty handily by Montreal. I think Montreal, the Canadiens, were like not favored. The Maple Leafs were like heavily favored, and somehow the Canadiens were able to come back from like a.
They have almost a
They came back from a
500
deficit.
record.
Yeah, I mean they're just they're like a low seed.
Oh yeah.
But I like Vegas. I like Vegas to win it. I
I-
think Vegas is a solid team.
I have Vegas winning it,
Yeah.
kind of easily in this series, and then
I think Vegas is. I think it's gonna be Tampa versus Vegas in the
I
Stanley
would
Cup,
agree.
and I want Vegas to win because boo Tampa Bay.
yeah. I was thinking we could go over fantasy football a little bit if
You
you
can go over
wanted to.
fantasy football a
All right,
little
let's do that. Who's your? We kind of talked about this. On
We've talked about
another
fantasy football a little
podcast.
bit already, but I just wanted to touch on if you take Calvin Ridley, and if I'm playing in fantasy with you, do not take Calvin Ridley
Oh,
because I will be taking Calvin Ridley. You better
what
not take
what
Calvin.
round do you think he'll fall to? If
He second, unless
Second?
you guys don't know what you're doing,
yeah,
then I'll take him
wow.
later. But he's going to be my receiver 1 or 2. Because the Falcons' offense is so pass-centric. And last year Calvin Ridley he was unbelievable when he was in. I had him. He was unbelievable when he was in. I mean, he had some injuries, but he was unbelievable when he was in. And so he's my receiver 2 option, maybe even my receiver. No, I'd say my receiver 2 option, just because my receiver 1 option is probably going to be, Diggs or Adams. But he's definitely my receiver 2 option. Solid, underrated player that you guys should, definitely look into taking.
There's a few players that I think will drop this year, and
Who would
it's
that be?
gonna work out great for me. The past 2, I wouldn't say the past 2 seasons. The past season, I had him. I took him first round. Did not go well. My fantasy season didn't go well because I also took Clyde Edwards in the second round, and look what happened.
We had so much promise in game 1.
First game.
You should have known though. The Chiefs don't run the ball. They don't run ever.
I wasn't really into fantasy football as much as I am now, so I didn't know as much.
That's fair.
But I think Michael Thomas will drop. I'm not
what?
gonna lie.
No.
People are gonna
He's gonna
see-
go up.
People are gonna see. I took him first round next year, and people are gonna see. They're gonna say he's injury prone. He might even, if he drops out of the first round, I will be 100% taking him in the second round.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah, I just think he'll drop out of the first
You
round.
think he'll drop out? Gotcha.
Yeah,
I thought you
that's
were
what I'm
saying I thought you were gonna say he's like. I think Michael Thomas his value will go up this year. Jameis Winston. He can throw the deep ball really well, and I want to see how Michael Thomas fares throwing the deep ball because Michael Thomas ran a lot of slants and posts, but he might be running some more
PPR,
flat. He might be running some more vertical routes now. So
Yeah, and a player I think that is going to have an astronomically better season than last season is T.J. Hawkinson, because
Interesting.
new quarterback.
he's going to be the main target
And
of that offense.
Can you even name their wide receiver 1?
Tyra Williams.
Yeah, so exactly. I mean,
Yeah.
T.J. Hawkinson, I'd say he goes for 1,000 yards, maybe not.
Yeah.
But I think he's going to be their main red zone target, so he'll be racking it up in that way.
Absolutely. And I would take Jared Goff as my backup quarterback, just because He's going to probably be throwing a lot to T.J. Hawkinson in check down territory. He's going to be throwing to DeAndre Swift a lot. I would also take DeAndre Swift.
Maybe.
And here's someone I don't know if I should say this to you, but here's someone I've got my eyes on is Laviska Shenault for the Jaguars.
Yeah.
I have my eye on him because he showed some promise last year, and he had Jake Luton throwing to him. He had Gardner Minshew throwing. Gardner Minshew, the GOAT right there.
The GOAT.
And they have Mike Glennon, the other GOAT. So actually, you may not want to take him because he had some goats thrown to him, but. But now that Trevor Lawrence is throwing to Laviska Shenault, you look at Marvin Jones. Laviska Shenault should be the center of that offense, or DJ Chark. They've actually got the Jaguars have some decent receiving talent. They have some decent receiving talent. I would definitely look into taking one of the Jaguars receivers.
Who's the QB that you want to go with this year? Because our fantasy league kind of stupid last year. They drafted quarterbacks in round 3.
We play in an incompetent fantasy league, so that's not really fair to say.
Yeah.
I play in a dynasty league too, so who I'll be taking in that league if he's available. I have my eyes on Matt Stafford. If he drops, I have my eyes on Matt Stafford now that he's probably going to be more of a pass-centric offense. Mm-hmm. Which he was in Detroit too, but Detroit was kind of split. It wasn't really either one.
Yeah.
Detroit was kind of just there.
Yeah.
But
so he's your QB1.
I got my eyes on him. I don't really care about QBs.
Yeah, QB should fall.
I don't really aim for QBs. I don't really aim for Mahomes or any of them because I typically aim for more of the higher point skill guys. But I also would like to take someone who could run the ball. So maybe Kyler Murray or Lamar Jackson. Because they'll get you
those rushing yards out of.
They'll get you those rushing yards. Or even, a sleeper would be Jalen Hurts. I might want to take Jalen Hurts.
I think Joe Burrow might drop because he was injured and he really hasn't proven himself yet.
No, he hasn't. But I think Joe Burrow would actually be a decent option. I also think that Jamar Chase would be a good option for maybe a flex receiver.
Or Devontae Smith. Yeah. Let's see. I would really love to take Lamar Jackson again. I think with those wide receivers that he's added, the Baltimore has put themselves in a position.
Sammy Watkins.
Yeah. They've given him what he needs to succeed.
Dude, quit all that talking about, not you, but quit all that talking about the Cleveland Browns winning the division. Stop.
Oh, yeah.
Baltimore Ravens are
17-0.
going to win the division. Stop. Now, I would like to say, I think that Cleveland will probably get second and Pittsburgh will probably get third. As painful as that is coming out. No, as painful as that is coming out. No, the Bengals are good. Bengals are bottom of the barrel every year. They're everyone's little cousin. I don't care how good that offense is.
You want to know who my sleeper QB is?
Who's your sleeper QB?
Who do you think? He won't start.
Yeah, I know who you're gonna say. Justin Fields.
Oh yeah.
You gonna take him?
I won't take him in the
wouldn't
draft.
take him. I would not. I would not. Also, not take Trey Lance. The only two QB.
I would take
the only
Trey
two.
Lance.
No, the only two rookie QBs.
But not in the draft.
The only two rookie QBs I would take in the draft would be Trevor Lawrence or Zach Wilson, and I'd probably not take Zach Wilson.
I wouldn't even take Zach Wilson.
I would probably only take Trevor Lawrence, and then that was if I was in a bind, and that he would be my backup.
I would take ETN though.
I would absolutely not take ETN or Robinson.
Or, not ETN.
Najee,
yeah.
I
don't know why
am
ETN.
taking Najee. Get your hands off.
I'm taking him first round.
Don't
Give me
that.
everything.
Don't do that. Don't take him first round.
Let me see something.
I would take him, maybe third or fourth. I'm serious. Like I have my eyes on Najee Harris because his workload's gonna be so high, and I also wouldn't sleep on any of the Steelers receivers. They'll drop, so I would not sleep on them if they're there. And even Claypool, I would take Juju, Claypool, Deontay Johnson. I would take them before 5th or 6th round.
Who's your number one player that you're absolutely set on drafting that you want more than anything?
First round.
Besides Calvin Ridley.
First round. Well, Calvin Ridley's probably my 2nd round pick. My 1st round pick. I never take a receiver. I always take a running back first. So probably either McCaffrey, although I took McCaffrey last season, so I'm kind of like shaky on that one, or Saquon. It depends on where I am in the draft order, but maybe even Dalvin Cook. But it depends on where I am in the draft order. If I'm high in the draft order, McCaffrey. If I'm kind of in the middle of the draft order, because we do like an 8-man league usually. If I'm lower in the draft order, I'll probably go with Saquon.
I see Dalvin as the second projected.
Is he really?
Running back, yeah. And Kyler Murray is actually the second projected quarterback.
That doesn't surprise me because it's PPR.
Yeah. Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill.
Stephon, underrated. If Stephon Diggs is there in the second round, I'm taking
I have a question for you. Kelsey or Kittle?
Kelsey. In fantasy?
Just overall.
Kelsey.
I think Kittle's better. He's a better pass blocker.
What?
They've got around this.
He's a better blocker, yeah.
Yeah.
But Kelsey doesn't really block. But Kelsey is a significantly better route runner. He's like a receiver.
But they have the same hands. Kittle's a beast.
Kittle is a beast.
But
keep in mind who's thrown to him. If you're
Their
talking about
greatest quarterback
if you're talking
of all
about
time.
fantasy, shut up.
From Illinois.
If you're talking about fantasy, Kelsey is a better option.
You know what?
He gets consistently thrown to. He gets like 30 points a game.
I'm taking Jimmy Garoppolo first round. The finest man of all time.
Stop. Are you seriously taking it for? I wouldn't be surprised if you did. You took Antonio Brown in the draft last season.
No, I didn't.
I swear you did.
He is below Taysom Hill right now.
Who is?
Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah, because he's trash.
And Jameis Winston.
Jameis will be a decent quarterback. I would actually not mind taking
Justin Fields has over Ben Roethlisberger right now. Doesn't even.
I'm not even going to respond to that.
Projected to
that
hit
is such
253.
He's a rookie quarterback. He won't even start until like mid-season.
I don't know about that.
He won't.
They're giving
Dalton's going to start.
Ooh. Yeah,
at the beginning of the season.
2 interceptions and dies from getting hit too many times.
Okay, whatever.
But yeah.
So just so y'all know, the podcast is still going to be mainly football. So
yeah,
keep that in mind.
It's what we do. But we figured
why not branch out? We like basketball too. We like baseball. We like hockey. We like everything. I know some of y'all said. I think that the main two were basketball and baseball, but I know there was someone else that said something else.
My cousin asked for cricket.
I don't know crap about cricket. I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah,
isn't it like British baseball?
Kind of. I guess. He asked me when the cricket episode was.
Today.
So Pat, if you're watching this,
it's today.
The cricket
today
episode.
Is the Well, I don't even know how to play cricket. Isn't it like I said? Isn't it like British baseball? It's kind of like British baseball mixed with like golf.
Can I look cricket up on ESPN, or is it just that horrible of a sport? You know any cricket teams?
It's not a horrible sport. Don't disrespect cricket.
I will disrespect. Oh, here we go. Prime Bank Cricket Club.
That sounds British.
Wow, 169. I don't understand how cricket works. I think it's. I don't even know.
It's like baseball.
I guess it's kind of like baseball, but not really at all. I mean, I understand. You throw the ball, you gotta try and hit those sticks, but
it's like the big stick.
That's all I know. So yeah, not a big cricket guy.
That's our talk about cricket right there. I mean,
yeah, that's all you get.
It can't get any better than that, right?
If you have any other sports that aren't mainly in America that you'd like us to talk about, let us know.
Except soccer.
We'll try and do our research. We'll try. There's no promises.
We can do our research about cricket.
Oh yeah, I'll come back next week. Know everything about cricket. Yeah. Might even go pro in cricket.
Dude. No, you won't.
Oh.
I will go pro in kickball. Mark my words.
Kickball?
I will go pro in kickball.
Is there a pro kickball league?
Probably.
Definitely.
I don't see why not. There's like a pro rugby league according to Mr. Nelson.
Yeah, but rugby is an actual national sport of some country.
Kickball's a national sport. Are you kidding me?
Oh my God.
Played it in gym class.
Rugby. I'm a big rugby guy. One of my friends from 5th grade, his grandpa was the captain of the African rugby team. It's pretty cool. Yeah. Back in
the NRL.
NRL. Yeah, I don't really know. We got anything else, or do you want to?
I don't think we have much else today.
All right.
All right, guys. I hope you liked our new and improved atmosphere and landscape. I hope you guys, like us being on film and being able to see all of our facial,
Yeah.
our faces and our reactions to things, because you guys just, hear us for most of the time. But here we are. Thank you guys for listening or watching. We'll see you again next week. Peace out.